So now let's look at the SQL injection. Here we are. So this is using one of my servers, and you have a reset. Each section uses a different SQL database. So the point of this, you can inject commands, and the only trick is you have to learn how to use this funny language called SQL. SQL stores data in databases, which are tables that contain records and fields, and the only thing you can do is examine the data in those databases and change the data in those databases. So if you want to see what databases are available, you show databases. And if you do that, there are two databases. One is called widgets, and that is the one made by the company that contains company data like social security numbers and usernames. And the screen got blurry. Has anyone else noticed that? I see a complaint. Has the screen become blurry that it didn't used to be blurry? I lowered the quality? Well, let me see. I did not mean to. Show me how I did that. Here's the preferences. I certainly had no intention of lowering the quality. Let's see. I wonder if I can just set it back to defaults. I did not attempt to change anything. Output video. It looks like to me, for what it's worth, looks like what? It's lower quality? I did not mean, well, does it look the same to you? Okay, people tell me it looks the same. Good. I really need your feedback to let me know what's happening. I didn't intend to lower anything. Now, there were students telling me you can adjust the quality at your end in Twitch. Okay, looks good. Good. Anyway, so widgets contains company data. That's a name made by the company. Information schema is a name made by MySQL, which is the database. That's an automatically generated table used to keep track of the structure of the database, and it always has the same name, which is really important to us, as you're going to see. So you can select just a fixed quantity like 1 or peanut if you want, and that will just return it back to you like an echo. Select 1, the answer is 1. Select peanut, the answer is peanut. All right. Normally you select data from a table, but you can select it locally. And you can concatenate strings, and you can pick substrings of strings. But what's more interesting is to get data from the database. So let's select star from employees. This will give me all the data in the table named employees. So if I know the name of a table, I can get the data. And in here I see ID, name, and social security numbers for these people. So that's why I said it's real important to know the name of the database, the name of the table, and the name of the field, because you have to know the name to ask for things. And it turns out to be pretty easy to find the names. So let's start with here. Here's how you can find the names of tables that exist. If you select table name from information schema tables, it'll show you all the tables in the current database. And so here's a bunch of tables that are automatically generated, and actually it's showing me all the tables everywhere, because the capital ones are the ones automatically created by MySQL, and this is the one in the widgets database called employees. So that's a way to find out what tables exist. Tables have records and columns. If you want to know the columns, you can select column name from information schema columns. And that will show you where the master record is in this information schema database of all the names of all the columns. So if you do that, you get a really long list of all the column names in all the tables. And in this case, way down at the bottom is ID, name, and social security number. And those are the columns in the employees database. But that's because this is an extremely simple example. You can see how in a more complicated database, you'd have a really hard time figuring out what column goes at what table. So the more complete way to do it would be this way. We found the table name before, and here we're going to get the column name where the table name equals employees. And this is the complete structure of the most common select query we're going to use. You select some data you want from a table that you want. with a condition where some condition equals something else. This is what limits it. So this select gets all the data, and this where condition restricts the output to just be the condition where this condition is true. So where the table name equals employees. And now I get the column names of the employees table. So now I know the names of the fields and the names of the table. Now I can do things like select ID from employees. And that's what I had here. So you could select just the ID from the employees, and you'd get the 1, 2, and 3. You could select ID twice with a comma from employees, and now you would get 2 columns. I don't know why I'm only seeing 1 there. But anyway, let's try 1, 2, 3 and see what happens. There we are. There they are. It's showing up a little funny, but it's showing the 3 results for each record. All right. Anyway, now the only other thing I wanted to talk about is substrings here. If I do this, substrings, if I substring peanuts starting at the second character for only 1 character, I can do that, and then I will get the E. So the second character is E, and I only wanted 1 character. And now I can do a logical condition. I can say equals E. That is now, this whole mess is a logical condition, which is either true or false. And in that case, it is 1, which is true. If I made it 3 here, it would go for the third character, which is an A, and now it's false, which is 0. So you can make true or false conditions, and that's going to be important as we go ahead. So there's a couple of flags here, and you can find these by just doing all the examples and finding out which examples put them out. So now, the problem is, this is how basic SQL works, just so you understand the fundamentals of the language, but you never let a customer have access to this kind of command line. This is only for administrators, because you could delete data, change data, find out all the data in the database. This is far too powerful to let a customer ever have this kind of access. What customers have is this kind of access. There's like a search field to search for someone in a directory, like on Facebook or Twitter or something, and you can put in a username, and it will find that one person in the database and then let you see only limited information like their public profile. So I can search for Bill Gates, and it'll tell me I found Bill Gates, but it doesn't tell me his social security number or anything. Now, but if I put in Tip O'Neill, then something weird happens. I get a syntax error. And to see why, I put the select command up here that's executed. What goes on when you do a command, this part of the command was typed in by the coder that wrote this software. The only part you control is that, the name inside there. The rest was hard-coded by the programmer, and you can't get at it. But in this case, since you put an apostrophe in the name, and this works by matching apostrophes, it interprets it as select name from employees where name equals tip O. It matches this apostrophe from the user with this apostrophe from the developer. And then Neil here is a command. It's looking for another SQL command there, and Neil is not a valid SQL command. So the issue is, when you see a syntax error caused by an apostrophe, that means you have command injection in the language SQL. It means that some part of what you typed in was being interpreted as a command. So now I have a denial of service attack. I've managed to make it stop working and put out an error message, and the trick is to make it something more clever than just crashing. And you do it with something like this. If I put in Sam, it's going to tell me there is nobody named Sam. Now, it's not an error. It's a perfectly valid question, but the answer is no. There are no records where this condition is true. But if I put in this one, Sam apostrophe, or 1 equals 1, then I get all the names, because it selects the name from the employees where name equals Sam, which is always false, or 1 equals 1, which is always true. And the pound sign here starts a comment, so this apostrophe is not used, and it does not create an error from a mismatched number of apostrophes. So this overall result is a valid command which can be executed and gives me, but the where condition is now always true, so I get all the data in the database. And that's the trick. And even though I only was able to control the data inside these quotes, by carefully crafting the attack, I was able to execute something that the developer did not intend for me to execute. And now, since you have command injection, you can do things. And here's probably the most important one. Because remember, I can't do a select. All I can do is so far, but I can do a select with the union command. So here, I get a result of 1. So first I select a name from employees where name equals Sam, and that gives me 0 results. And then you can do union and have another select. What union does is you do one select query and get some results, and then you do another select query and just add those results at the end of the table. So I selected a 1, and the 1 appeared. So what this means is, even though I only control that part of this, I can now put an entire select command in there. So I can now find out things like, for example, if I wanted to know the list of all the tables, I could take this one and I could put it in where that select command is. And now I'll get all the table names. So I can turn this form that only let me put in the name effectively into this form that lets me put in a whole select command of any kind I like. The only limit is I can only have one column of data because I can't change the number of columns. And if I was to try to do something here like select star from information schema tables, then I would get an error saying the 2 select statements have different number of columns. You can't take the first select thing giving me only 1 column and the second select thing giving me multiple columns. It won't add them together. That's the only restriction. So you have to pick things out 1 column at a time, or you have to use the concatenation function that was up here to combine several columns into one. So you'll be able to use the same process to find the names of the databases, names of the tables, names of the column, and then you can steal data from that database. And then there's some more things down here. You can install SQL map on a Debian system and attack it with an automated tool if you want to, and do a couple of puzzles with that. And then there's blind SQL, which I want to show you. Here's another form where I'm just going to search for names. So I can search for Bill Gates, and it finds Bill Gates. Okay, that's fine. But suppose I search for X, then there is nobody named X, so I get no answer. But suppose I try the SQL injection again. First I put in an apostrophe just to verify the vulnerability, and I do see a SQL syntax error, so that means it's vulnerable. So now I can try the kind of injection we did before, like this one, for example. This is the one that doesn't require a comment. It amounts to the same thing. X or A equals A. So I submit it. And now this is select name from employees where name equals X or A equals A. By doing it this way, I use up that extra apostrophe at the end. And now I have a condition that is always true. But notice what happens. User X or A equals A found. This is what is called blind SQL injection. It does not show me any data from the database. It echoes back the name I put in. Now I see a question here. What is order of SQL query? When there's a query inside a query, the query is not inside the query. The union just connects 2 queries. It's like a plus sign. You do one complete query, and then you do another complete query and just add the results together. It's not really inside the query. So this union back here is really just 2 things sequentially. So first it does this query, and then it does this query separately, and then adds them together. That's important. It's not a query inside a query. It's more like a semicolon on a line of bash. Just 2 commands that take place sequentially, and then add the results together. Good? So now I was able to do this, and I got a result, but it didn't show me any data from the database. However, it did give me some information because notice, I got something found because this condition is never true, but that condition was true. If I change this one to something false, like here, like B. Then I get no results. So now I can get some data. I can put a question here. And if it's true, I'll get a result. And if it's false, I will get no result. So I can ask one true or false question and gain one bit of data with every query. So if, for example, I want to know the length of the database name, I can execute this command, and it will tell me if the database has a length of 1. Oops, didn't copy correctly. Copy and paste. There we go. All right, so now I get no result, so that means the length of the database is not equal to 1. So I could try equal to, let's see, like this query, 1, select something from, I don't know about that thing where you put another select inside the parentheses. I've never done it that way, and I don't think it'll work. You might be able to do that where you're going to select something from inside a table, and that's going to be the name of another table, but that's not a common situation. I've never used queries like that. You might be able to do it, but I'm not aware of a situation where you would want to do that. Anyway, so this is length of database equals 1. I could try equals 2, equals 3, but you can also narrow it down faster. I can do less than, say, 7. And now I get no result. So I guess it's not less than 7, which sounds wrong to me. But anyway, let's see, it's greater than 3. Yeah, it is greater than 3. Okay. Anyway, so you can use this to track things down, and you can get the length of something, and you can also get the value of things, like this. So if I do this one, union select, I'm going to look at a name. So there, union select name. Okay, so this is going to select name from employees where name equals X, union, select name where name equals Bill Gates, and substring of name 11 equals B. So it's going to get the name Bill Gates, and it's going to look at the first character of the name and see if it's B, and that is of course true. The first character of the name is B. But if I change that to the first letter being A, then I will get no result because this is not true. So you see, I can ask about one letter, and I could be asking about a social security number or a password or something here, not a name. So I could have the name Bill Gates, but then look at the password or something and see whether that one character is A or B or C, and I can eventually track down passwords and social security numbers and such with this blind SQL injection. It's just sort of a little logic game like the game 20 questions. So there are some challenges to do there, and that's what I wanted to show you. You can do those.